everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We're going to be talking about the FDA's proposed FOP labeling rule. We're very excited to be here, and we're also going to talk about how, with this proposed rule, how do you design your packaging, what kind of claims can you make, and how fast can your teams respond to this change. So, on that note, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Shruti. I head the content and creative team here at Artwork Flow by ESCO, which is a packaging management software for emerging brands. With me, I have my colleague Amanda, who's an account manager, who's pretty much had her boots on the ground when it comes to regulatory shifts, such as the FOP labeling regulation, amongst others. Amanda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Shruti. So like she mentioned, my name's Amanda. I'm one of the account managers here with Artwork Flow under ESCO. Really excited to talk to you all about front of pack labeling today. Like Shruti mentioned, we've worked with clients in the past who've had to go through a lot of different labeling changes, from MOCR changes to bottle bill changes. And this is just another one that we're gonna, grab our arms around and be able to walk you through.
Awesome. We've introduced ourselves, but we would also like to know who's in the audience. So feel free to use the chat box that you see at the bottom of your screen to quickly introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, which brand do you work for. And we also have some of our colleagues in the audience who will be answering any questions that you have that we cannot answer live. So just some quick housekeeping. Feel free to do that on your own time. And in terms of agenda for today, this is what we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the proposed FOP rule, what exactly has changed, why it matters now, and finally, how can you prep your team for it and how do you get ready for it? That's what you're going to walk away with in the next 30 minutes. Before we get started, there's also a quick poll that one of our colleagues is going to launch pretty soon. We would really like to know from you if you are familiar with this proposed front of pack rule. So this is going to pop up on your screen below. It's a yes or no question. Feel free to submit your vote. It's also asking me to vote, so I'm just going to say yes for the chaos of it. But in case you answered no, that's great, because this is exactly what we're going to discuss today. Amanda is going to take us through a lot about the front of pack rules and also around, whether there's any software that can help you with implementing changes to your labeling regulations. I see that around 33% have answered no, but there's 60. Okay, it's changed. There's around 63% of the people who've said that they are familiar with the rule. But what I would like to hear from you, Amanda, is what exactly is changing? What are some of the nitty gritty about this rule that you think all of us should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the changes that are expected to come, first off, mandatory disclosure of added sugars, sodium, and saturated fat on the front panel. So this is actually complementary to your nutrition facts table that exists today. It's not intended to replace it. There's going to be restricted use of front of pack health claims without full context or FDA approval. We're going to talk about that a little bit more today as well. And while calories are not mandated in the front of pack label, manufacturers may choose to display that information. And we do have a couple of examples where we can show you how that could look as well.
Awesome. And yeah, like speaking of examples, we have a blown up version right here around where exactly the little nutrition table has to come up on your front of pack. And just right off the bat, one of the things that I'm noticing, and this is because I had a creative team on here, this is a lot of visual real estate where you're going to have to smack a government mandated box on top of, which is definitely going to be interesting. But overall, this is what it looks like. And one of the questions that I immediately had when Amanda and I were prepping for this webinar was, okay, if I were manufacturing something like oat flakes, this makes sense. But if I were creating like yogurt, if yogurt was a part of my SKU, that's going to be a very small packaging. And how exactly do you accommodate for a table like this? That's one question. And of course, the FDA already has some answers. It's still, the proposal is still in the commenting stage right now, but the FDA does have some pretty cool insights already in terms of what the nutrition table could look like on the front of pack. Amanda, could you take us through this slide?
Yeah, a great question. So there's actually 5 label variations that the FDA has proposed so far. So we have a couple of examples on the screen. So a full scale nutrition info box that covers all those required details. Another version that pairs with the calorie counts that we mentioned earlier, so you can get an idea what that looks like. That yogurt example, so a more of a compact format for some of those smaller packages, around 40 square inches or less. Another label that accounts for products with that as packaged or as prepared nutrition facts. And then another cereal example for some of those multi-packs, thinking of like, the cereals, the ice cream tubs, or anywhere where there's different flavors or portion sizes. So how you're able to navigate through that as well.
Interesting. I'm actually, yeah, pretty happy to see that a lot of these external questions have been answered as well. But again, I think right before joining this webinar, I saw that the deadline for commenting on the proposed rule is mid-July. So there's still a little bit of time, but I'm interested to see how this goes because I'm pretty sure there's going to be way more questions apart from these, and maybe the FDA is going to have to come out with way more labeling variations than just these. So let's stay tuned and see how that goes. One of the next points that we wanted to discuss around this labeling update is that it's not a labeling update. There are a lot of moving parts as well. And I know that Amanda, you specifically have highlighted consumer loyalty and trust in the past, but I see quite a few points on here around why this isn't exactly just a label change. So could you walk us through that now?
Yeah, and I think for those of you in the audience who have gone through similar changes before, no, it's never just a label change, that it always entails a lot more. A big one on the screen that we're looking at, recalls and litigation risks. Anytime the FDA kind of comes out with these new proposals, it does open us up to that. Something within art workflow, we do have some AI features in here that we're going to actually talk about that can help you kind of avoid those recalls and litigation risks. So we can talk about that shortly. Like you mentioned, Shruti, that customer loyalty, consumer trust, brand reputation, that is really, if you think about it, why the FDA is coming out with this, new requirement. So hopefully being able to look at it from a positive standpoint and thinking, okay, this is actually going to build trust with my consumer. This is going to build loyalty with my consumer. Having that competitive advantage when it comes back to that customer loyalty. If I'm one of the first ones to market to put it out there, if I do it correctly, that's going to give me that advantage. It's also going to give me that shelf space when we're looking at the different retailers we're working with. Reformulation decisions. So keeping in mind that now this front of pack, this nutrition fact table is going to be on the front of your packaging. So if you have a very high sugar content in your nutrition facts table, but your romance copy says it's healthy, it's this, it does that for you, we may want to rethink that. So that's something else that everyone should also keep in mind.
No, for sure. And I saw that one of our examples in the previous slides had something along the lines of healthy. And if you have a nutrition table that goes on there that says it's high in sugar, yeah, that's going to be something you're going to have to rethink. So that's definitely interesting to me as well. Let's actually zoom in on the design bit here. And I already talked about having a government standard box on the visual real estate that you already have, where it's usually the front of pack where you get to be very attractive with your packaging. And I really want to pause here and look at how exactly an update like this could actually impact your design and your strategy overall.
Yeah, so it's definitely going to impact, the packaging hierarchy, that visual real estate that we were talking about, especially on some of those smaller packaging. How do we kind of navigate through that? Your marketing claims. So again, like we said, if it's saying it, improves your health, it does this, making sure that your nutrition facts table really backs that up. SKU complexity. I think this is one to think about as well. And we can also talk about where we can help you in this. But if that yogurt pack has 3 different sizes, now that's 3 different labels that you have to come out with. So thinking about that as well.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting, actually, and that actually brings us to our next poll. Obviously, I see a lot of people on here from different kinds of brands. Like I see someone from beauty changing focus to food and bev. Obviously, based off all of your experience, you must already have some kind of a workflow in place to manage labeling updates. So, could you guys quickly take this poll and let us know if you do have one in place, or if not? Either way, we have some answers for you. Amanda is going to take us through some interesting slides on here. So I would be very interested to see the results of this poll right here. And I see, oh, we're split. It's an equal split. We have 50% of the audience that says they do have a workflow in place, whereas the remaining says they do not. And the number is increasing for the yes, which is quite interesting. What I would like to hear on chat once again is there any chaos when it comes to labeling updates? And I'm pretty sure I already know the answer, but I want to hear from those of you in the audience. So feel free to go on chat and let us know if you know how chaotic your workflows are in general, and if they're not, tell us all about it, because I'm sure the rest of us would like to take some notes as well. But while we do that, Amanda is actually going to take us through what the workflow impact is here when it comes to a labeling update such as this, because I have it on good authority that Amanda's worked with quite a few brands across food and bev, across cosmetics, who have had to go through some finicky labeling changes. And I would actually love to hear some of the points, more about some of the points on here around what exactly is the impact on workflows.
Absolutely. And I think this will resonate with everyone in our audience, whether you have that workflow already in place or whether you don't have a workflow at all. And that's where we're really here to help both of those situations. So it's definitely going to impact regulatory review delays. So that is something that, again, when the FDA comes out with this guideline, it opens us up to kind of these recalls and things like that. So making sure the regulatory team is involved in it. How do we have them review it? So that's definitely going to be something we want to make sure is applicable within our workflow. Disjointed asset management, that version chaos, I think those are going to be two elements to think about, because right now we have an approved asset, right? That's what's on shelf. That's what your retailers have access to. Maybe even your sales team has access to that. But now that version is going to change. How are we going to make sure that they have that most updated version? Of course, outdated guidelines, claim placements, bottlenecks that slow down your approval. So these are all different elements that could really impact your workflow, and how do we navigate around that? And then pre-launch auditing. So making sure that we have those systems in place to be able to help expedite this and make sure you hit the deadline and also get to market on time.
Makes sense. I actually have our first answer here on chat as well, where someone says they use emails for feedback and edits, which I think is a pretty common answer. And it actually brings us to our next slide as well. In the meantime, where Amanda, you can take us through how exactly can art workflow help, especially because we've seen quite a lot of people who use emails for edits, emails, Excel sheets, where they track their proper projects and everything. So could you take us through this as well? And you can take control of the slides from here, because I know there's quite a lot that you have to get through.
Absolutely. So whether you're working on email or you already have a system in place, we're definitely here to help you. I think that's something that a lot of brands that I particularly work with, in my wheelhouses, they think that that's their only option. Maybe they have a smaller team. They think that that's their only option right now is to have to do this on a more manual level because there isn't a solution out there that can help them. So that's really where art workflow can come into place. So within art workflow, there's a couple of different elements that is definitely going to help impact and help you get to market a little bit faster, especially with this front of pack labeling. So one, the proofing. So you don't have to have all of that documented in Excel spreadsheet. You're emailing back and forth. You have a clear visual location where you're actually proofing your artwork. You're comparing it. You're checking for things like spell check. You have the ability to do it in multiple languages. So that's something that's going to be important. Being able to share those files internally and externally. That's another big one. So how are you going to get this information out to your printers now? How are you going to get it out to your external retailers? That workflow that we're talking about right now. So even if you already are working with the workflow, and we're going to have a great example of this coming up shortly, is it a flexible workflow? Are you able to now go and change it to accommodate what a front of pack labeling is going to need? So making sure that's in place for you as well. And then we actually have an AI powered feature that is really going to help on the regulatory standard part of it. So, with this new front of pack labeling, there are requirements that the FDA is saying, not only in just the contents of the actual table, but down to the size, the font that the information needs to be in, the font size. So that is, sometimes tricky, especially whether you're a large team or a small team, making sure that all of those elements don't get passed to the human eye. So this is where we have our AI feature come into place and scan your artwork and make sure it's compliant. We actually have a really great document within our website that can actually help you kind of guide you in way the AI tool works. And I'm always happy to meet with any of you and walk you through that as well. And then storing these assets. So now we've just updated them. They're compliant. Where are we keeping them so that everyone has access to it? So having that centralized asset management system, all of that ties back to your workflows and your projects, all within one location. So it's some of the areas where our workflow does come in place. And what we have on the screen right now is one of our more complex workflows that we tend to see. A little bit blurry. We wanted to get it all in for you. If anyone does want a better picture of this, or if they want this built out specifically for their particular workflow, I'm happy to meet with you and do that for you as well. But we talked about one thing was that SKU complexity. So having the ability to build out a workflow where all of those SKUs can be managed in one, I think that's also going to be really, really helpful here. So that's definitely one example of that. So as I mentioned, we've worked with a lot of clients in the past that have had to navigate similar things. So one of them is Trinchero. So they're more of a wine distributor. They actually had to go through a recent bottle bill that impacted California. It was a new law for them. So they had over 400 labels that they had to update. They actually were working with a previous workflow system and that they were using in the past. And they came to Art Workflow because their workflows were so rigid. They didn't have the flexibility. They had to go to their actual administrators at the company that they were working with to be able to change their workflows and be able to navigate that. So you can only imagine how much time that would have had to take across 400 labels. So they came to Art Workflow for our flexible workflows, being able to kind of use our expertise as well to help them navigate what their workflow should be. And they were able to save 2,800 review cycles. So again, you can imagine how much time that saved with them. And not only did they come to Art Workflow for that particular project, they've stuck around with us because as your brand grows, as new acquisitions come about, you always have different things that are coming about. And they've just been really excited with our product there. So I think that's it from me, Shruti. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, there's a little Q&A. There's a question box at the bottom right in case people haven't started sending in your questions yet, but feel free to do that. But before we do that, I thank you so much, Amanda, by the way, for taking us through the Trinchero example as well. It's definitely one of my favorite examples of how our customers have had to deal with massive labeling changes because I think Trinchero had the most massive of them all. 400, more than 400 labels is no joke for sure. And I think we also have someone in the audience who can potentially relate because I see someone on the chat telling us that marketing is opposed to too many changes. We usually show mock-ups to present the full package to be held and shown. So that's quite interesting actually to me. But in the meantime, yes, we are ready to open it up to Q&A. There is a questions box at the bottom. Feel free to drop in your questions on there and let us know if you have anything that you would like Amanda to answer live. While we wait for questions to come in, I also see, okay, people are interacting in the chat, but I'm nosy, so I'm going to read out what I'm seeing here. So one question that Ajita has is, what's your opinion on how the visuals of front of pack will be affected and will it be possible to look appealing? The question is for Louis. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, but it's more design related. Amanda, is that a question you have some answers to as well?
Yeah, so I think kind of just thinking about the design of it, we always say that, or at least I say to my clients, is that, your packaging is a great indirect way of being able to speak to your clients. So, while it is taking away maybe some of that romance piece of it, some of the pretty colors, it's really about how you're able to speak to your client. And I think that's something really important to kind of take away with there too.
That makes sense. Yeah. I have another question, and this is also from a designer, if I'm not wrong. Yes, they've said they're a visual designer. As a growing brand, how do we build compliance into our design process now without slowing down the design workflow?
Yeah, so I think that's also a great point for what our AI feature does too. So helping be able to scan, your artwork, checking for things like even like your brand guidelines, so colors, font, the actual logo on there. So that could also help expedite your design process without slowing down that actual workflow. And happy to always kind of meet with you and show you how that could work as well.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I think there was already a link that one of our colleagues dropped in the chat a while back around booking a meeting with Amanda if you're interested in hearing more. There is yet another question also on chat. There is a questions button as well if you want to ask your questions there. In case we run out of time to answer all your questions, one of our colleagues can reply on the platform or also email you after the webinar is done. But the next question is around whether this applies to D2C only SKUs or is it just for products sold at retail?
So it's actually both. I do think for the retailers, some of the retailers are actually coming out with their own requirements in addition. So that's something to keep in mind, but it is for both. Even if you are just a DTC company, this will impact you.
Oh, that's interesting that retailers are coming up with their own rules. I did not know that. Is that something they're already doing, or do you think it's going to come into play? Sorry, it's my own question, but
No worries. So it actually was just like a high level kind of mention. So again, they're still finalizing all of these details. But I do know for the retailers, there is something. So you want to make sure that you are compliant with your retailer to not lose shelf space there or your actual relationship with them.
that makes sense. Yes. I have another question. I just want to go through these as quickly as possible because I
Yeah,
think
now
this is,
they're coming in. Now everyone's excited. So
yeah.
that's good.
How does this impact products that primarily follow USDA regulations? That's the next.
So how does it impact products that follow USDA regulations? So that's a good question. So I don't have too much information on that right now, but as we continue to learn more about that, we'll definitely be posting more information on the Art Workflow blogs and website. Shruti, I don't know if you came across anything around that one yet.
No, I'm not sure either, but we can definitely research on this and get back to you, Kevin, on it. And that actually also kind of answers the next question on here from Katie, where it says, what are some of the resources to follow the developments on this upcoming regulation? For legal reasons, I'm going to have to tell you that that's the FDA website, so definitely do that. But as a marketer who also has to answer to her sales team, I would say that you can also follow the Artwork Flow website for answers on here. But yes, it's the FDA website always, and I think they have a link. I can find it here before the end of this webinar and post it on chat as well. But it's constantly updated, the website, where I believe a few days back it had a different deadline for inviting comments, whereas it's been changed recently. So always the FDA for sure, but also Artwork Flow.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm not.
in addition, Katie, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I know that's something I'm going to continue to be posting about, talking about. So that can also be another avenue, and we can always connect there as well.
Absolutely, yes. Maybe one of our colleagues can also help out and share Amanda's LinkedIn and the Art Workflow website on chat here. I'm going to switch to the questions tab because I finally have a question on there. Are sizing of labels scalable with smaller and larger packaging? I think one of the slides answered this, but Amanda, you can still take this one.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. So actually, yes, and we're gonna pull it up for you. So there's 5 different variations for the different sizes of packaging. So making sure that the labels are scalable. So one example we talked about earlier was, a large cereal box versus like a small yogurt container. So there are different requirements around that. And then again, this is something our AI feature can also help you with, is kind of being able to measure out like dimensions and things like that to, again, just ensure that you're compliant there.
Awesome, cool. I think we're going to have to wrap up there because we just have 3 minutes left. But overall, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. I'm just going to, yeah, pull that up because words aren't enough. Thank you so much for attending. You've been a great audience, and I've seen a lot of great questions on here as well. I do see some people still typing. So, one of the things I would recommend is Mansi from our team has dropped Amanda's LinkedIn on chat. So, feel free to reach out to Amanda. I don't want to speak for you, Amanda, but I'm pretty sure you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Please, you can feel free to message me on LinkedIn with any of your questions, and we can talk about, how to navigate all of this and figure it all out together too.
Yes, awesome. Cool. So that's what we have so far. Thank you for being such a great audience. And really, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day and feel free to connect with Amanda to hear more about this labeling regulation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.